The night was impenetrable, suffocated by a thick, unnatural mist as the characters hurtled through the darkened woods in Madame Eva's creaking wagon. Hooves pounded against the damp earth, and through the tattered window, the looming silhouette of Castle Ravenloft emerged from the fog like a predator, its jagged spires waiting hungrily for its prey to stumble into a voracious maw. Inside the carriage, Madame Eva's eyes gleamed with an otherworldly knowing as she shuffled her weathered Taraka deck, and her passengers braced themselves for a grim challenge ahead. They had been invited by the legendary vampire, Count Strahd von Zarovich, into a twisted game of survival. The terms were clear. They had the first of the night to explore the castle, searching for tools, relics, or weapons that could turn the tide against Strahd. But as the hours slipped away, so would their hope. For at the stroke of midnight, Strahd would descend upon them, his wrath unbridled, his hunger insatiable. Madame Eva's cards revealed their best chances of survival. The sword of Sergei von Zarovich, Strahd's fallen brother, lay entombed in the crypts beneath the castle. The Tome of Strahd, the vampire's private journal, was hidden in the dusty confines of the castle's ancient library, and the Amulet of Ravenkind, the sacred relic capable of holding Strahd at bay, was locked deep in the treasury. As the carriage clattered into the shadowed courtyard, the rusted gates groaned open like the jaws of a primeval beast ready to devour. There was no time to waste. The game had begun. The cold halls of Castle Ravenloft were as a labyrinth. The sword of Sergei had been quickly claimed within the first 2 hours, but in the highest tower of the castle, an unlikely danger waited for them. Bottom Food, the goblin assassin, crept ahead, his blade ready for any threat. A skeleton warrior long forgotten, animated by the malice that saturated Ravenloft, struck without warning. Cold steel plunged into Bottom Food's chest, and with a gurgled scream, his life drained away on the blood-stained stone floor. The castle had claimed its first victim. The entry hall was a vast and foreboding chamber, its vaulted ceilings echoing with memories of long-dead revelers, circled with stone gargoyles. Dust swirled in the air as the party returned to this place, desperate to learn the location of the other treasures that they had sought. Brodo Swaggins, the halfling thief, moved to inspect the ornate statues that loomed at the far end of the hall. Suddenly, one of the statues shifted, and a gargoyle, jagged maw twisting into a cruel grin, lunged forward. In an instant, stone claws ripped through flesh, and Brodo's lifeless body crumpled to the cold, unforgiving floor. Another soul lost to the castle. With the Tome of Strahd now in hand, hope flickered briefly, until in a nearby room they found a maid, delicate and trembling. When questioned, her voice quivered as she spoke to a key to the treasury in her possession. Tubo, the goblin ranger, stepped forward to claim it, but as he drew near, the maid's visage twisted into something monstrous. With a feral snarl, she revealed herself as one of Strahd's vampire spawn. Tubo had no time to react before her claws tore through his throat, his lifeblood staining the library floor. The study was dimly lit, a fire crackling in the hearth as if it had been waiting for the adventurers to arrive. The air was thick with the smell of ancient smoke and charred memories. They knew the treasury was hidden behind the flames, and Galadriel, the elven warlock, stepped forward to extinguish the blaze. But the fire was no ordinary flame. As he stamped and fought to smother the burning logs, the injuries from previous battles proved too much, and the heat in his weakening body overwhelmed him, and Galadriel collapsed into the flames, his charred remains another offering to the castle's insatiable hunger. The Amulet of Ravenkind was theirs at last, and the treasury thoroughly plundered. But as they regrouped, and with midnight closing in, Ereborn, the human knight, could not shake the feeling that there was more to be found within the castle's cursed halls. He muttered of a deck of many things, a power that might tip the scales in their favor. Against the warnings of his companions, he raced off alone to find it. It was not long before Strahd found him. With terrifying strength, Strahd cleaved Ereborn in half, his blood splattering the cold stone walls. The time for games had ended, and the hunt had begun. The final battle was a nightmare made real. Strahd toyed with them. With enchanting words and a flick of his hand, he bent Father Dad, the kobold priest, to his will, and the kobold turned his divine magic against the party. Reverend Chris Hansen Lastchance barely survived the onslaught, bleeding from a dozen wounds, But in the end, Stonespear, the indomitable dwarven Viking, and Borgthor, the human fighter, rallied. With a mighty swing, they decapitated Strahd, and his body collapsed in a cloud of mist. But the work was not done. They raced through the castle's catacombs to his coffin, where they drove a stake through his heart, ending his reign of terror once and for all. The survivors limped from the castle as the first light of dawn began to break over the distant mountains. The curse had been lifted, and the castle's oppressive grip loosened, yet there was no joy in their victory, only exhaustion, a bone-deep weariness from having faced death and come out the other side changed. The gates of Castle Ravenloft creaked shut behind them, leaving only memories of the horrors that they had endured. Strahd von Zarovich was dead, but the scars of Castle Ravenloft would remain with them forever.